and he pretty much poured into the 20, 22-year-olds and taught them how to change the oil, the basics of auto mechanics. And so now they can not only can they take care of the vehicles that are in the orphanage or in the village itself, but they can take care of other people's vehicles, people that come to them, and they can make money. And so it's an opportunity for them to have a career and have a vocation. And so we believe in, we're not just going over and planting a church and sending them money. That's not what we're doing. We're actually investing in these kids, investing in their lives so that we can teach them something. We can also spread the gospel in doing it, because as they work on people's cars, they can be able to share about what they do, why they do what they do, and it's a real opportunity for gospel growth, and that's what we're all about. And so, but basically, we had that ongoing work there in Indonesia, and we've also planted a church in Iceland. Been over there one time with the family, and that was great. So, so basically, does anybody have any questions so far about what we got going on? Yeah.
You said that you had 20 to 22-year-olds. Is that they're still part of the orphanage, or they're people who were in the orphanage and now moved
Actually, they're still part of some of them are still a part of the orphanage, unfortunately. They just don't have anywhere else to go.
Okay.
You'll be surprised that you throw up an orphanage building and you put orphans in there, and people are bringing their kids to drop them off. It's just the way it is. They know they'll get fed and they'll get taken care of. So we had to cap it at a certain number that said that we can only take this many people. One of the things I wanted to say was we are ministering on the island of Bali. If any of you are familiar with the island of Bali, it can be considered a resort area in the island, the little small capital Denpasar. But if you go to the rest of the island, it's totally in poverty, totally poverty stricken. So there's a lot of ministry needs to be met there. But
How many people are in the orphanage?
we try to cap it at 15. Yeah. So the group that we're trying to meet, there's 93% Hindu on the island of Bali. So there's a little group, about 30,000 Muslims, that we're trying to actually minister to, because there's no known Christian and no missionary there, and no Bible translated in their language. So that's one of the things that we want to do. We want to start a church there, we want to send a missionary there, and we want to translate a Bible for them in their own language. So that's kind of a big task for such a small church, but it's one of the things that we feel called to do. And so this Muslim group has no Christians in it. When we go, we actually baptize about 6 to 8 people when we go, because of the ministry work that's been ongoing by the people that we've trained on how to evangelize and things like that by the indigenous people. We also believe in the indigenous people doing the work. So we go there, we're kind of on the back end. We do go and sit in people's houses almost the whole time we're there. Very friendly people, very welcoming. They'll invite you in and feed you. You can eat all day if you wanted to. It's just food you really don't want to eat. If you're into white grain rice, it's a great place. But other than that, after about 2 times of that, you're good to go. So, but it's all they got. And so usually rice and eggs. That's what we get when we're there. And sometimes it's different versions of rice. Sometimes they'll serve what they can't remember the name of it, but it's a green rice, and it has to sit out for like a week, and then you eat it. And so they bring that out to you. So it's always a pleasure to see that coming to your way. So you don't know what they're going to serve, so you get there and they serve it, and it's actually a kind of slap in the face if you don't eat. So you have to eat it, and so it's kind of yeah.
You mentioned sending kids back so that they can continue spreading the gospel.
Yes.
Of the percentage of kids that you take in, how many do return to their villages?
Well, you got to remember it's only been ongoing work for a couple of years, we haven't had to really send any of them back yet. We're still coming up with curriculum and things like this. This is kind of the vision of what we want to do and what ongoing work do we want to see done there. And so we're hoping all of them. The only difficulty that's going to come in that, the only problem is that we're going to have in being able to do that is that most of the time when they're converted to Christianity, they're kicked out of their villages, they're kicked out of their family, and they usually end up at an orphanage anyway. So we're trying to make it where we want to make it a smooth transition where they go in there and can be able to kind of immerse themselves back into their culture.
How many people do you have on your staff?
On our staff? Well, basically it's Pillar Church, so it's just me where I'm at in Locust Grove. I'm the only one on staff.
Oh, I meant in Indonesia.
In Indonesia, we just have one person, and they take care of him and his wife, live there. They have their own kids, so their kids are part of the orphanage, and then they take care of the 15. But there's volunteers that are there too. It's not just them, but they're the only ones that we pay to live there. So for $400 a month, we can pay them to live and we can support the orphanage. That's all it takes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So they're fed well. Yeah.
Sorry. How much was it to build that orphanage?
$6,000. Well, probably in total, by the time we get done and do it well, it's gonna be about 10 grand. About 2,000 square foot. So pretty good size.
2,000.
So about pretty good size. Good. Just pretty cinder block walls.
You mentioned Iceland. What's going on with Iceland?
It's a good question. Iceland was started about 4 years ago. We started something called the Iceland Project. And Iceland, in case you don't know, it has no known missionaries. Nothing. No IMB representation, no nothing. So Iceland is a place in desperate need of the gospel, basically. Iceland operates under what is called the state church. And that means when you're born Icelandic, you're born under the governing authority of the state church. Well, the state church originally was kind of like a European Christianity, Orthodox Christianity. But the problem is that when you're born under the state church, you're already born Christian. And as we know, the gospel doesn't present it that way. So it's very hard to reach people who already believe they're Christians. You know what I mean? But if you ask half of them who Jesus is, they don't even know. But we did some interviews over there with some college kids when we were there, and basically all of them said that if any of them knew anything about Jesus, said that he was a good person, he was a good guy. But as far as telling them you believe he's God's only son, and do you believe he's God? No, of course not. Just believe he was a good person, a good guy that lived, a good prophet. So there's a lot of work in Iceland to do. So what we did with the Iceland project was there was essentially we asked three pastors committed to go for 4-month increments, all three from different churches. And so they actually left their posts as senior pastors for 4 months, gave it to preachers, elders who stepped up and preached, and went over there for 4 months increments. So for a whole year, they were there spreading the gospel and kind of getting things started, getting the seeds planted, trying to till up the soil to see what was there and see what was going on, and find out where God was working. And they found a couple places where God's really been working, or God has been doing some things. And so we were able to see a new church plant there. I think it's a church running about 75 to 80 now. And we always put indigenous people in the pulpit, try to raise them up as leaders. And there was a guy who was a strong Christian who'd been trying to work over there for a while and get some things started. So we were able to come alongside him, get a new church plant started called Salt Church. And it's really been a blessing kind of over there to see God working since we've been there. So we actually, the first IMB missionary who served over in Iceland was actually one of the guys who went on the 4-month short-term trip. So God kind of raised him up, called him out of his church to do that.
What's your monthly financial need there? Do you have a figure on that?
Where is that? Iceland? I don't really know. It's pretty much maintaining itself. We don't really do anything. We have what's called an Iceland Project Fund, and we just keep money in that. And if we need to help them, we